understand? Can't you comprehend how this would undermine everything that is... This would undermine the entire structure of the judiciary to begin with. Like, the judge says, yes, we found you not guilty, bangs the fucking gavel. You think you're walking out a free man. And then some cop is waiting outside going, no, no, no. I still think you're illegal. I still think you're a criminal. Boom. Back to prison with you. You can't do that. The fuck do you mean? And the only way you could do that is if there is a separate criminal warrant for yourself, okay? For a totally separate case. In this circumstance, him saying he has an administrative warrant is not applicable. There is a actual active court case taking place over whether or not this person is responsible for what he was charged with. And then in the aftermath of that, then you will make a determination for deportation orders. But you can't just decide, nah, fuck due process. We're just deporting you. Sorry. We're going to deport you expeditiously. Like, this is crazy. This is not even lack of due process. It's giving due process and defying the outcome. That's ridiculous. DEA Agent B, who had remained in the hallway and had not been recognized as a member of the arrest team, reported that Judge Dugan walked around the hallway and appeared to be looking for additional agents before she returned to the courtroom. Once inside the office of the chief judge, the deportation officer A showed Judge A his credentials and the administrative warrant. Judge A asked the chief judge's clerk to make a copy of the warrant and asked whether the chief judge was available. The clerk advised that the chief judge was not in the building, but later advised that he was on the phone. At that point, Judge A left, and deportation officer A went inside a more private area of the chief judge's office to speak with him on the phone. During that conversation, chief judge stated he was working on a policy which would dictate locations within the courthouse where ICE could safely conduct enforcement operations. The chief judge emphasized that such action should not take place in courtrooms or other private locations within the building. Deportation officer A asked about whether enforcement actions could take place in the hallway. Chief judge indicated that hallways are public areas. When the chief judge expressed interest in talking to ICE ERO management about this policy, deportation officer A provided him with the contact information. While deportation officer A was speaking with Chief Judge, DEA Agent A, CBP officer A, and FBI agents A and B waited in the vestibule area outside of the chief judge's office. DEA Agent A departed that area. After a short while, Judge Dugan's courtroom deputy then approached the remaining arrest team members and stated the courtroom deputy was the one who had notified Judge Dugan about their arrest plans. Courtroom deputy was also made a comment about Judge Dugan pushing Flores Ruiz's cases through, which the arrest team interpreted to mean Judge Dugan was attempting to expedite Flores Ruiz's hearing. Judge Dugan escorts Flores Ruiz through a jury door to avoid his arrest. As in, she wants to conduct the court proceedings on this person. This doesn't mean that she is going to find him not guilty. It just means she recognizes that ICE is waiting to literally grab this dude, kidnap this dude, okay, without due process taking place. So she goes, let's expedite this process. Let's expedite this process so that we can figure out if he is actually fucking guilty or not. That is crazy that they arrested her for doing this. What? You dumb? For example, the courtroom deputy recalled that upon the courtroom deputy's return to the courtroom, defense counsel for Flores Ruiz was talking to the clerk, and Flores Ruiz was seated in the jury box rather than in the gallery. The courtroom deputy believed that counsel and the clerk were having an off-the-record conversation to pick the next court date. Defense counsel and Flores Ruiz then walked towards each other and toward the public courtroom exit. The courtroom deputy then saw Judge Dugan get up and heard Judge Dugan say something like, "Wait, come with me." Despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. These events were also unusual for two reasons. First, courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusive for the jury's use. Second, according to the courtroom deputy, only deputies, juries, court staff, and in-custody defendants being escorted by deputies used the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never used the jury door. We all know why this took place. This took place so that the judge could actually fucking protect due process on principle. That's it. Oh. They are fucking mad. They're mad and they're claiming that this person is a violent criminal and the judge protected this violent criminal. Before the conviction comes through, technically, he is not a violent criminal. He might be. I'm not saying he's not, but it doesn't fucking matter because what this judge is doing in this process is not defending a violent criminal. It's defending due process. It's making sure that the court process goes through. And before people say, what was he accused of? It doesn't fucking matter. Okay? It does not matter. Especially considering that if he was accused of a heinous crime, for example, and there was enough threat for him to be walking out in public, then the judge would have made a separate determination to hold him instead of allowing him to walk free anyway. Basics of judicial immunity. Absolute immunity, when recognized as absolute, is absolute and means judges are not liable in civil actions for their judicial acts, even when done maliciously and corruptly. The law is clear that in general, no action can be supported against the judge or justice of the peace acting judicially and within the sphere of his jurisdiction, however erroneous his decision or malicious the motive imputed to him. Like, for example, it reminds me of that one judge that was sending little children to little children jail because he illegally had set up a pay per child scheme. And ironically enough, Joe Biden actually commuted his sentence on his way out. He pardoned that judge. Okay? Only after the court proceedings are done and a separate investigation is concluded, and then on top of that, this person is found guilty of wrongdoing, can that person be, sent to prison? You can't, in the process, decide, that judge, what you're doing is abhorrent, illegal, immoral. I agree, but you can't just in the process go, sorry, what you're doing is abhorrent. You're going to, we're arresting you while you're making this determination to send children to jail for no other reason than the fact that you are getting paid to do so. Judges and judicial officers have always been awarded absolute immunity for their judicial acts. Absolute immunity covers even when conduct which is corrupt, malicious, or intended to do injury. And in this process, what this judge was doing wasn't even fucking corrupt or immoral, for the record. Yeah, the Cash for Kids judge. This is what I was talking about. Biden's commutation in kids for cash scandal angers some Pennsylvania families. Anyway, Beg your finest pardon. Okay, we're not going to get into a totally separate. We're not going to get into this totally separate case. Okay. A victim witness specialist employed by the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office was present in courtroom 615. The VWS made contact with the victims in Flores Ruiz's criminal case, who were also in court. The VWS was able to identify Flores Ruiz based upon the victim's reactions to the presence in the court. Dugan's gesture towards Flores Ruiz and an unknown Hispanic woman. The VWS stated that she believed the Hispanic woman may have been an interpreter. However, based on the VWS's description of the woman and other witness statements, I believe the Hispanic woman to which the VWS referred to was Flores Ruiz's attorney. The VWS stated that Judge Dugan then exited through the jury door with Flores Ruiz and the Hispanic woman. The VWS was concerned because Flores Ruiz's case had not yet been called and the victims were waiting. Another attorney C, who was in courtroom 615 on April 18th, 2025, to represent a client, also advised case agents that he observed Judge Dugan forcefully direct two individuals, a man and a woman, to leave through the jury door. Attorney C indicated that this was done with a stern tone. Ruiz makes it out of the courthouse and is arrested after a foot chase. After leaving the chief judge's vestibule and returning to the public hallway, DEA Agent A reported that Flores Ruiz and his attorney were in the public hallway. You want to know something that's so like sad and weird about this process, by the way? Like technically, if he gave chase and he was able to successfully evade the authorities and then somehow made his way back to the next court date, and if found not guilty, like he would be able to continue being on U.S. soil, ironically enough. And that's kind of what ICE is trying to stop from happening. They just don't want this to happen. They like, because what the ICE enforcement in this process is in a legal gray area, okay? The reality of the matter is, if you can successfully stop ICE agents from following on an immigrant enforcement action, then yeah, that person is still fine to be here. Like the difference between, like, for example, I'll give you this example, okay? ICE could not figure out, there was a Korean American legal permanent resident going to Colombia, and ICE tried to nab her while they were going after Mahmoud Khalil. They couldn't find her on campus, okay? And she was able to make her way to a New York court, and because of that, she is not detained. Mahmoud Khalil, on the other hand, could not evade the ICE agents, and that's the reason why he is currently in a fucking Louisiana detention facility. And considering that this administration has already gone back on revoking the immigration status of thousands of students because they just had no merit. Like there's this totally meritless revocations. It's literally about abiding your time until, you know, the admin realizes that they can't get away with it. It's really fucked up. It is no different than, at least at this stage, because we haven't fully gotten to the legalization of these sorts of actions. Like, this is the pre-Nuremberg race laws moment in Weimar Germany, and not post-Nuremberg race laws moment where it has become officially illegal to be Jewish, right? That in many circumstances, if you can just like evade the law, because the law is behaving at this stage still in an illegal manner, you can get away with not being disappeared. It is a very strange time. And it's crazy to think because, like, one might say, Hassan, you're telling people how to obstruct, obstruct justice, and you're urging people to evade the law. But the reality of the matter is, in many of these circumstances, they haven't done anything wrong. And it's actually, as it stands currently, until they change the rules, until new precedents are set, until they change the fucking rules, it is actually the government, the federal agencies that are in violation of the law. It's fucking nutty. The system is so broken. Anyway, this is the situation.
Words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th, and his message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So when you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
In fact, she just had an initial appearance in court. There's also this other...
The lawful orders or the determinations being made by the judge outside of the courthouse either, technically, okay, under normal circumstances, when the judge says, hey, we're going to go through due process with this person, you can't just be like, nah, I don't care. Like, there's jurisdiction here, and it is in the hands of the judge. Yeah, judiciary is literally there to prevent executive from determining what law is. That's the whole point. And I think a lot of people don't understand what the Constitution is there to do. The Constitution is not there to limit your freedoms as a regular citizen or non-citizen on U.S. soil. The Constitution is there to regulate and limit the power of the fucking government from doing shit like this, doing literally shit like this. That is the entire reason for why this exists. It's crazy. Anyway. You're wrong on many levels. Judges can't just walk hallways involving themselves in everything they see. It is her own personal court case. It's literally due process taking place. You can't just go, nah, sorry, I've decided that there is no due process in this circumstance. He wasn't. It's not even a he, it's a she. In any case, he was talking about, my bad, he was talking about the agent. Brother, I work in a federal courthouse. Judges absolutely have full reign of the place. That chatter is insane. Yeah. By the way, judges don't just have full reign over the courthouse. They have full reign in general. Like, we're not even talking about that. That's the, like, what do you think a judge's purpose is? To just sit there and fucking bang a gavel? Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm just saying, like, within the halls of a courthouse, in the courthouse, they are the god, okay? They're functionally the god. They're the judge, the jury, and the executioner in general. Okay, But outside of the courthouse, they have a lot of powers as well. I'm not talking about in their own personal life. I'm talking like when they make a fucking decision that is supposed to limit the enforcement actions by other members of law enforcement. Like, for example, I'll give you a great example of this. Court process takes place. Okay? There's a court proceeding. There's a court proceeding. There's a criminal trial. Okay? And the judge adjudicates at the end of the process. The person, let's say the defendant, is found to be not guilty. You can't just go up to that person once he leaves the courthouse and go, I don't care. I still think you're guilty. You're going to jail anyway. Do you understand?
So gone are whether you want to remove one or the other. Now it's just locked in. You tackle it head on. Team Skittles, whatever bomb site they go, Chris, but Gabe, you can touch upon when you're on attack.